When it comes to North Wilkesboro Speedway, many thoughts come to mind. The big battles, the elevation change, the unique difficulty when it comes to this circuit. And when it comes to the Bootleg Racing League, they know this track well, as it's been one of its most popular destinations on the schedule for seasons. The question's going to be, which driver will take home the checkered flag tonight? We're about to find out on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway for the third race of Season 6 for the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series. Tonight is also the third race of the 2021 Moonshine Challenge. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside of the booth tonight is Devin Henry. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he is using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As these drivers get ready for what's expected to be a really good race tonight, let's take a look at your GSRC track guide to learn more about North Wilkesboro Speedway.
North Wilkesboro is a legend in the world of NASCAR, the very first NASCAR sanctioned track. Before falling into the clutches of NASCAR's expansion of the mid to late 90s, NASCAR Cup cars made 2 trips here a year. Petty, Allison, Waltrip, Earnhardt, Bonnet, Gordon. The list of winners here reads of NASCAR's legends. North Wilkesboro opened as a dirt track, having the same shape that it does to this day. In the late 50s, it was paved. This is when it became the track we know of today. This 5/8 mile oval is known for keeping a lot of speed on entry into those 14-degree bank corners. For a long part of NASCAR's early years, this was one of the fastest short tracks around, and with it, the unique characteristic, partly a result of lack of funds when they first cut the track. You go downhill on the front stretch and uphill on the back stretch. Also, the 2 corners aren't the same radius, but you might not notice that as much at speed. While North Wilkesboro is mostly known for Cup cars, other NASCAR divisions ran here over the years. Grand National had a few races. The trucks were here for 2 races before the Speedway shut down. Modifieds also made some trips to North Wilkesboro. In the attempted restart in 2010, several late model and super late model series held races here, but it wasn't to be, and the Speedway fell silent. Until now, thanks to the efforts of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and iRacing, North Wilkesboro breathes life again in this virtual world, as it did in 1987. Now it's time for the Blue Ridge Mountains to hear the thunder again here on GSRC.
That's a look at your GSRC track guide for North Wilkesboro Speedway. Now let's bring my broadcast partner for tonight, Devin Henry, as this has been a very popular destination for BRL's competitions, especially its Grand National Series in the past few seasons. It's a track that puts on great racing every single time, Devin.
Absolutely. They added this course back in Season 3, and it actually became the season opener for that year. And part of the reason why this track is so much fun is because you just have to take a different philosophically mindset into every corner that you take. You, of course, have the uphill back straightaway. You have the downhill front straightaway. You can't clip the grass, otherwise it will spin you around. It just has so much character, and iRacing did such a good job replicating that into the virtual world. It's a challenge for any type of short track racer who really loves a challenge. North Wilkesboro Speedway is the place to go.
It's going to be a big-time challenge, and it's going to be an important race early on in the season for the standings, which are fairly tight after the first couple races so far. Let's take a look at your point standings entering today's action for the overall season, where it's James Lowe who has the points lead with 79 points, just 3 ahead of Jason Mendes. Austin Belkey's having a strong season. He's 7 points back of James Lowe. Ruben Altzi's Kurt Smith round out the top 5. Jeffrey Harden and Joseph Segal are also within spitting distance of the top position in the standings. It's also the third race of the Moonshine Challenge, where J.R. Shepard has that points advantage with 16 points. James Lowe with 12 is second. Donnie Moore is third with 7. Kenny Kibbe and Adam Shane are tied with 6 points apiece. In fourth position, Justin Morton has 5. He rounds out the top drivers in the standings for the Moonshine Challenge, which is going to get ready for our race details tonight, where the drivers have that to think about, where J.R. Shepard has both the race victories of the Moonshine Challenge, but also a race important for the early portion of this season, Devin.
It makes it a double up because of just how dangerous this series is. And as we get ready for tonight, it's going to be 100 laps at North Wilkesboro in race number 3 of 11 out of the season. No tire changes. The tires that you start this race on, you have to be wearing at lap number 100. And we all know just how messy a track like this can be because of how difficult it is. You only get one lone fast repair. And of course, no qualifying here in the Grand National Series. We take the finishing order from last week, invert the top 8. Everyone else, you start where you finished, depending on who shows up for this week. 15 cars tonight. And so some of the guys who were the top of the field last week, they're coming from mid-pack here tonight.
It's going to be an interesting race indeed, as the ensign time, by the way, for tonight's action is at 7:13 p.m., approaching 7:14. Sun expected to set in the next few moments or so. It's going to potentially be light that will be a factor here tonight with the 79 degrees of track temp, 75 air temp, partly cloudy skies. It's going to be interesting how that turns out here, as it's a beautiful sunset here at this facility tonight.
Again, iRacing did a very good job replicating this track. Humidity at 51% and a little bit of wind is not going to really mix these cars up too bad, but of course having even now up to 8-mile-an-hour winds, it is something that these drivers will have to pay at least slight attention to and make sure that it's not messing them up down these short straightaways. But Justin, corner entry here is so special because you are going uphill in one, downhill in another, and that's going to be something that we see usually guys overcook the corners. That's why they spin out. Here it's going to be a mixture of a couple of things. Yeah, it's very easy to go in a little bit too hot, but because of how difficult corner entry is, it also makes it a point where on old tires, because you will be running all 100 laps on these tires, you really have to change your mindset on corner entry. And so that will be a key to being able to pass cars today, is how you take care of those tires, not just as a whole for the race, but just going into this next corner. How can I attack this corner with the tires that I have? It changes every, I guess, half lap, really.
Absolutely. It's going to be important to have that variety and changeability when it comes to your driving lines tonight. As J.R. Shepard currently has your fastest time in practice, by the way. As you can see, Shepard looking nice and sturdy with an 18.581 to put him at the top of the board. James Lowe, Justin Morton, Jason Mendes, Ruben Altis are your top 5, separated by about 0.2 of a second. And for him, he won the street stock race earlier on tonight. His teammate at Different Path Motorsports, Austin Belke, came home with the victory in the Tour Modified race as well, Devin.
Go ahead and go on board with Austin Belke, who, like you said earlier, Justin, is doing pretty well in the points this season. We can kind of see he doesn't have that oval steering wheel. You would almost think so, because, I mean, he drives a Jeff Gordon car every single week. But no, he's got a road course steering wheel, if you will. That's kind of what I call them for the road cars for the most part. And that's just another part of iRacing, how interesting some of these sims are. I mean, driving an oval with a typically road course vehicle kind of steering wheel. He's got the gloves on too. And something that I'm always interested in seeing with these different drivers is their mindset going in. You can see Belke communicating right now over his headset. But look at how focused in those eyes are. North Wilkesboro requires that intensity of focus every single lap, much like we saw last week at Oxford.
Yes, absolutely. You can see just how dialed in he is at this moment in terms of how focused he is around this track to make sure he doesn't hit the curbing. Absolutely.
About 4 minutes to go with J.R. Shepard ahead, Justin, and I know that J.R. Shepard is the guy that everyone wants to beat. He's going to be the fastest guy on track, manage his tires the best. A guy that I'm really looking forward to watching, though, is Jason Mendes. Second in the points, not too far behind James Lowe. He has had very sneaky good finishes this season in that Haviline number 45. And, you know, this is a guy who maybe isn't running top 5 regularly the past couple of seasons, but this year he's had the speed to keep up with the very front of the pack. Guys typically aren't being able to keep up the pace of J.R. Shepard, James Lowe, Justin Morton. But this 45 has had it this season. It's been very fun to watch.
It's been also interesting to see how Todd Liston's been racing, as we see how his angles are here tonight. You can see very big steering wheel on that machine, but is also 7th in practice so far. And Liston started off with some bad luck in the first race, had some better luck though in the second. He's averaged a finishing position of 10th in the first 2 races, 8th in the standings.
And he's hit and miss, and it's because of how aggressive he is. And I don't necessarily mean against other competitors. He's really aggressive on his car specifically. I mean, this is a guy who pushes his machine to the limits every single lap. Sometimes it doesn't work out for him. Sometimes it ends up banging doors with someone else because of it. But this is a guy who every single week is going to go out and leave it all on the track as he's a little sideways coming off of turn 2. At a track as demanding as North Wilkesboro, this will be another fun driver to watch him and what he's able to do with that aggressiveness, not necessarily against other people, but with the cars you see here down the front straight.
Significant damage added to that car, in fact, for the contact down the front straightaway, and you can also see how easy it is to get yourself into trouble here. How difficult do you feel will be to try and make sure you don't step on the wall coming out of turn 4 or loop it around on the corner, since you take that corner exit there in turn 4 too low? It's very easy to spin it around to the bottom of the racetrack, and it's been a spot where caution flags have developed here in the past in the series.
And I don't know if it's because of the different elevation changes down the straightaways, but I always feel like as we are on board here with Justin Morton, turn 2 exit doesn't really come out and bite you all that bad. I mean, turn 2 is a pretty typical corner exit, but when you're coming out of 4, first of all, you enter right up on the wall sometimes, but you can get very tight here on the exit of 4 if you are too low, like you mentioned, Justin, and that wall will suck you in. And I don't mean like the physics of iRacing. I mean, you get on the gas, you think you're fine, and then the wall just shows up. The exit of turn number 4, especially on very old tires, is very difficult to manage if you're not low enough on the track and you're too eager to get back on that gas.
About a minute to go until we get rolling for tonight's action towards the starting grid. As most drivers are now wrapping up the practice times, who are the drivers you feel this race is going to benefit the most, or in terms of this track's characteristics, who you feel it's going to be most successful for?
Well, we already talked a little bit about the success that Jason Mendes and also Austin Belke is having. Todd Liston trying to get back on track. You look at a guy like Donnie Moore, didn't have very good luck last week at Oxford. We know that he loves these little technical bull rings like Oxford, and he's been successful at tracks like this at North Wilkesboro. Another guy that I'm interested in, though, is Justin Morton, just because we see him a lot on Friday nights in the Dirt Street Stock Series. That's also right here on GSRC, but Justin, I typically say, is the guy who you will see pointing the wheel to the right more than anyone else, like he does in that Dirt Street Stock. And maybe at a track like this where it's going to get loose, we're going down into deep sunset, maybe this is a track that just really kind of suits his style. I'm interested to see what Justin Morton can do, try to get back into victory lane in the Moonshine Challenge like he did at Martinsville a few seasons ago.
Drivers have wrapped up practice now as they will roll towards the starting grid in just a few moments. Again, it's Shepard who had the fastest time at 18.581. James Lowe in 18.642 is in second, followed by Morton's 18.654. But the drivers are now focused on one thing, the starting grid for tonight's action as they get ready to get rolling here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. On the front row tonight, it's J.R. Shepard and James Lowe for tonight's action, followed by Jason Mendes and Justin Morton in row 2. Ruben Altis will start in 5th tonight with Austin Belke in 6th position. Todd Liston in 7th with Donnie Moore in 8th spot. Kurt Smith and Joe Segawa round out your top 10 tonight, Devin.
Jeffrey Harden 11th on the grid, Lowell Jewell in 12th. Bruce Pearson rolling off in 13th. The two of Mike Holloway starting off in 14th. Ryan Seneker and Chris Wolfson. The final row here tonight, a 16-car field at North Wilkesboro Speedway.
That's a look top to bottom at your running order for tonight's action. And as these competitors now get rolling on your starting grid, your keys to victory for tonight's race, Devin.
First and foremost, like we talked about, be leery coming off of turn number 4. It likes to come out. It likes to really snag you. But another point of this racetrack that you need to watch out for is the grass. You're going to be trying different lines as the race goes on. Don't clip that grass because it's going to grab you, suck you in, and you'll be turned the wrong direction.
Just about all set to go for the green flag. One more pace lap before we get said green flag. Talked about some of the drivers you're keeping an eye on It's going to be interesting how J.R. Shepherd does, though, as the control car here for this start of the race, and to see if he can try and pull away here. He led a majority of the laps here the last time this series came here.
Mendo right behind him. James Lowe, of course, all season long. He's fighting for that championship, so he'll be tough to fight against. We'll see if he has anything for J.R. Shepherd. So good on tires, so good on restarts. He's hyping himself up right there on camera.
The iRacing pace car will drop off right here. It's Shepherd and Lowe in the front row, Mendes and Morton in row 2. Green flag is out. We're underway from North Wilkesboro. Great launch for J.R. Shepherd as he pulls away from the rest of the pack by more than 3 car lengths. Lowe is already clear in second position. Mendes already clearing by Morton, just about off turn 4. No, Morton with the run.
That Ford Thunderbird got a little squirrely on corner X, and Justin Morton trying to make that outside lane work here in 3 and 4. A lot of drivers trying to do the same, and here Morton with a little bit of extra speed off that corner exit. Obviously the longer way around the track, made it work in 1 and 2, lost a little bit there in 3 and 4. You can make this work, maybe later in the race though too, but it's a difficult line to master.
Oh, around goes Jason Mendes. He collects Ruben Alti's caution flag is out as they wreck coming out of turn 2.
It's a parking lot as everyone just started to collide in an accordion effect. Very unfortunate set of circumstances here. We'll watch the black number 45 of Jason Mendes. Was battling with Justin Morton for that 3rd position, and a lot of unfortunate endings to the first fast repair coming up here. Mendes into turn number 1, might have came in a little bit too hot trying to fight that outside line momentum, and just clips Ruben Altis, and that outside group was not ready for that 11 car to fly up on board. On board with the 11, there's nowhere else he could have gone. Wrong place, wrong time, and then the rear end of that car is gone.
So that's our first caution flag coming in, coming to lap 5 with significant damage to a majority of the field. As a result, Lowell Jewell, Bruce Pearson will be one of the drivers who elect to come down the pit lane to at the very least get damage repairs done. No one appears using the fast repair quite yet after that one. But I was about to note with that too, Jason Mendes did the same thing a couple times, Devin, in practice in turns 1 and 2, where he looped it around in that specific line. And it seemed that comes into play now in the race, unfortunately for him and for this start of the race.
And sometimes, Justin, it's also just the pressure of being on the inside lane, right? Because you know Justin Morton, first of all, was holding his ground on the outside. But second of all, you're trying to match that speed that the outside lane, has with that momentum. And so Mendes there might have been trying to get that little extra bit of speed to beat the 9 off the corner. And this early on in the race, those tires still probably a little bit on the cold side and a little bit too hot, and he's already going to eat up a fast repair along with Bruce Pearson and Lowell Jewell.
Let's talk about the importance of trying to manage the car on the cold tires. How difficult is it to be able to manage them, especially at a short track where your brakes are also going to be cool?
Exactly. The braking goes into it too, and this is a fixed setup series, so you can play with the braking bias to help turn the car. These ARCA cars, though, do a good job turning by themselves in a lot of different ways, though. Yeah, I'm terrible at managing on cold tires. It's being able to find that limit of what is loose and what is too loose when you go into a corner, and being able to figure out, okay, when have these tires heated up, and I can kind of go back to that full blast, that full race speed that I want to be at.
Let's get back underway. Coming to 93 laps to go. Shepherd and Lowe still in the front row. Morton is now in 3rd. Austin Belke up 2 positions in 4th. Donnie Moore, Jeffrey Harden, your top 6 as the green flag waves. And a good launch for J.R. Shepherd. They're going to potentially have to deal with Lowell Jewell, though, who just came out of the pit lane in front of the race leaders.
Yeah, Lowell Jewell's been on pit road a couple of times for damage repair from that first incident of the day. He's not too far in front of the leaders. He'll likely move out of the way here, as he's going to have a mirror full of J.R. Shepherd coming up in the top 3 right now, trying to get away from the rest of the field.
First side-by-side is for 5th position. Donnie Moore and Jeffrey Harden trying to fight for that position. Harden slides up. So does Donnie Moore, as Moore nearly hits that outside wall, and Moore doing a decent job at holding on to that top group. Mike Holloway also providing pressure here.
Californian Jeffrey Harden trying to work his way to that inside of Donnie Moore, find himself in the top 5. On board with Holloway, you have that sun glaring into your eyes, and at this point, you are just a passenger watching this battle. Someone's got to get by the other guy, so I can get by one of you. It's almost invigorating being stuck by someone like that. Harden's a little bit loose on exit, and Holloway's going to commit to that outside lane, pinching into turn number 3.
Harden's nearly spun it around the past couple of corners, been sliding his tires. Holloway able to keep it side by side as they make door-to-door contact. Holloway's up on the wall. Mike Holloway rides the wall. No caution, we stay green.
Holloway nearly got into the wall on the front straightaway and started coming down the straightaway, I think a little bit earlier on entry than maybe even he was anticipating. Watch that yellow too, nearly clips the wall, starts coming down the track, almost half a lane. The 44 wasn't going to give that room up. He thought that the 2 car was still up there, and this is some big damage and a lot of lost positions for Holloway.
Holloway back in 14th position as a result of that incident. By the way, up at the front, the boss man Lil Joel has been reeled in by your race leaders. J.R. Shepard currently in safe mode with James Lowe providing pressure behind by 2 to 3 tenths. Justin Morton also within range as Lil Joel does move up to the top line, led by the race leaders. This will hold them up for just a moment though.
Yeah, I won't say left by. He's still making sure that he maintains a race speed, and this is an all short track series here at the Grand National Series. And they're all short tracks, and every single short track, there's never a good place to catch a lap car. Either you're on the inside on entry and you have to back off your entry, or you're on the inside on exit and you have to back off your exit. There's no good place to catch lap cars without losing time, really, for anyone in the field.
By the way, Lil Joel now the only driver a lap down, but absolutely, especially corner exit, can really take the momentum out of your car. Austin Belke, by the way, is really in your top 3 slowly but surely at the moment. He's talked about this in the past, where he likes to focus on the long run pace in these types of races. Very dialed in, just like in practice at the moment.
Liston just turns around down the back straightaway. He's off the track, but he's going to fly all the way to the back of the field. Todd Liston had a little bit too much gas off of turn number 2. Doesn't collect anyone else, though. He's able to get back underway, but he slides all the way back to the 15th position. And this year, Justin, just another case of too much gas on exit there. Tried to get a little bit greedy, and he's going to end up paying for it.
Massive amount of time lost. Liston is now 11 seconds back behind the leaders. That's in 15th position. The last car now in the lead lap at the moment is Liston, struggling with damage. Meanwhile, Harden has been reeled in by Kurt Smith and Chris Wolfson. Wolfson started from the very back of the field tonight, didn't put in a single lap in practice, is trying to find his way around both of these cars. He's your biggest mover.
The principal out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a principal at a local middle school, and now bringing himself back here. We don't get to see him every week, but what a ride so far through half of the field already here in that white and orange number 17. And right behind him, Jason Mendes has made his way up to the 9th position after being a part of that early race incident that collected a lot of the field.
Decent recovery for him. He's the first of the drivers who got damage repair done under the last caution flag. Bruce Pearson is also following behind him in 10th position. So several different drivers seem to be shuffling their way through this field here, but the pace compared to your race leaders, for some, is up to 4 to 5 tenths off these top 3.
And it's never surprising when guys can't seem to keep up with the pace of these 3 drivers, yet somehow they all manage to conserve enough tire to have enough fuel at the end of this race to really still go, not necessarily all out, but their average speed, which is already faster than most of the field. And J.R. Shepard, that we know, I mean, he's the best at this compared to everyone who we have seen throughout the past few seasons. I'm intrigued to see what has James Lowe learned over the past few years to either outsave JR or just get in front of him. We don't see a lot of people passing the 98, so we don't know what it's like for the 98 to have to pass someone back for the lead, really.
Falling on board, by the way, with Justin Morton, and he's still been following the tire tracks as well. These drivers running 19.1s at the moment. Belke last time by a 19.2. The rest of the field range for the 19.3s to 19.5s. You can see J.R. Shepard all dialed in and has a triple monitor setup as well as a fairly close setup to his wheel with where he's seated on his chair.
And this is all driver preference, but typically with your rigs, what you would like to do, and he's kind of got an office chair going like how I race really. I don't have the triple monitors though, but you kind of want that wheel in the most realistic position possible for where the wheel would be for where your cockpit view is. So a really nice looking setup. You got the 3 monitor setup so you can see what's going on the left of you and the right of you simultaneously. I mean, his view right now is better than what we're seeing on board, although nothing's quite much better than having no cars out in front of you.
I'm wondering what's to the right of J.R. Shepherd, though, as I believe we just seen something of an ear, possibly, of maybe a pet? Not quite sure.
Bring out the pet!
Yeah. Sometimes pets like to watch drivers race, and sometimes they like to sit in front of the monitor and say, "Pet me."
Yeah, that can be troublesome. Although when you have a triple monitor, sometimes it's helpful because now you can at least see like half of your 3 screens instead of nothing at all.
Meanwhile, back in 11th, Mike Hallway, remember, made contact with the wall earlier. He's recovered to that spot despite the damage. He's been able to pass by Ryan Seneker and Joe Segawa. And they are slowly trying to reel in Bruce Pearson, who is just up the road.
That Joe Segala car has not been having a good night. I mean, he honestly, none of that damage is really his fault. He was stuck in the middle of the accordion that happened when Ruben Altice's car flew up the track after just barely got tagged. And now, major damage on the front. The rear bumper looks like it's lifted up like a really bad rebuild of a car, and this guy's seen better days, but a good run to try to get himself back up, but still stuck behind a plentiful amount of cars.
Hardin, by the way, has been able to hold on to 6th position throughout this run so far, and he was the other end of that equation from that contact earlier. He has minor right front damage on his fender as well as a lot of scrapes, but Kurt Smith, keep in mind Kurt Smith, he's been up and down through this running order so far with his damage. At an earlier moment where he got loose, just about got loose again off turn 4. He's been able to move his way up 2 positions from where he started this race.
Kurt Smith always rocking some Mark Martin throwbacks and always finds a way to be in the back, in the front. A couple seasons ago, he had nothing but bad luck, even though he was trying to put together a good string of finishes. Right now, P7, not a bad spot to be in here, as we still have over 65 laps to go in this race. So watch out for that number 6. See if he's got anything left, but that right side doesn't seem to have a lot left on it.
You have to wonder how big lap traffic's going to play a factor at this point in the race, because this has been a long green flag run. Your top 3 have already just about reached Ruben Altice, by the way. And they continue to turn lap times a few tenths quicker than the rest of the pack. James Lowe, though, has been able to still keep lockstep with Shepherd, while Morton's fallen off by about a couple of car lengths.
Yeah, and you never know, is this just Morton burned up that right front a little bit more than the other guys? Is he saving? Has he said, you know what, I'm not going to pass these guys on a green flag run. Let's save up, and on a later caution, maybe we'll try to get after them again later on. Or, you're never quite sure, because it's typically these 3 are the best of the field, the cream of the crop. They rise to the top very quickly. Right now for J.R. Shepherd, he's got these 2 behind him, and then about another 4.5 seconds to Austin Belke in 4th. Catching up to Ruben Altice right on the rear bumper of the 11 machine, who's seen better days as well. He's going to have to move over. Him as well as Lowell Jewell, and also Todd Liston had some issues. All 3 of them now a lap down.
Bit of contact, by the way, in that circumstance, as J.R. Shepherd does now have some front-end damage. And do you think that's going to impact him at all based on what you've seen from him tonight, now that he's going to have that front nose damage potentially the rest of the way based on how things are going?
I don't think so, especially with these older cars and iRacing's physics. It's not like necessarily he's getting more or less air to the right front of the car or anything like that. Aerodynamics don't matter at a 5/8 mile like North Wilkesboro. So at this point, just cosmetics. I've seen worse looking cars run very good races and win. I don't think that's a concern right now for J.R. Shepherd.
This point dialed in at the very front of the field to try and pull weight. By the way, Hardin still keeping up that 6th position at the moment. with Smith still trying to slowly reel in. Look at Chris Wolfson, though. He's already worked his way still in that 8th position with Jason Mendes right on both their tailpipes.
And I saw someone comment on YouTube that, of course, Mendes has that old school throwback on for the 45 machine. And you might think, yeah, it's because they're at North Wilkesboro. And no, Kurt Smith, Jason Mendes, Austin Belke, they always got some sort of throwback in their pocket. Austin Belke, not necessarily with a Jeff Gordon 1996 throwback. That was the 93rd and final Cup race here that Jeff Gordon went on to win. But still always got that Jeff Gordon throwback, as the Mark Martin throwback is right up in the rear bumper of Jeffrey Harden for 6.
He's been trying to make this move, it seems, for the past 20-plus laps. Just near dead even on the times. Last time by, though, Harden lost 2/10 compared to Kurt Smith. The average has been quick with the past 10 laps as well for Kurt Smith by a couple 100ths. Here comes Chris Wolfson, though, tried to peek to the outside, nearly smacked the wall.
Now, might have been there just trying to get a little bit of extra throttle. When you get stuck behind someone for so long, you just want to do something different. And especially with how close these cars are, sometimes those bumpers take up a little bit too much of the screen, and you either want to just get out of that view, you want to take a bit of a different line, see if something else is faster. But all these guys right now just stuck in a train. Someone will have to make a move eventually, but still got to be very thoughtful about what your tires look like right now on lap 45 of a green flag run.
J.R. Shepherd, by the way, turning 19.4s, low last time by, along with more than 19.5s. And I think that tire saving definitely starting to come in with what you were just discussing there.
Absolutely. And while we haven't had 45 green flag laps, we have had, what would you say, 42, 43 green flag laps, which, I mean, come on. And, of course, you got to go all 100 laps on this set of tires. You have to really be thinking ahead in these situations so that you have enough tire if there is, say, a green-white checkered with a late race caution.
Have to be big picture, to say the very least. Mike Hallway, by the way, is just passed by Jason Mendes just about in the heart of the pack that they are about to reach these race leaders. The leaders are to the point where they're half a track ahead of the majority of your pack. Just that quick of a dominating pace so far seen, as you see from above how these gaps have separated out.
And that's just insane how fast with the tempo that these three are able to go while also maintaining those tires. And at a track like North Wilkesboro, sometimes the right rear can become a factor as well, because you will get a little bit sideways. You do have a little bit of banking in these corners, and you'll throw it in because of the uphill and downhill entries with these straightaways. It's always very intriguing watching these drivers. And you know as well as I do, Justin, how J.R. Shepherd, the caution flag's out.
And it's involving one of those packs. It's the pack that involved Chris Wolfson, Jason Mendes, Mike Hallway. And Chris Wolfson had been starting to fall off and quickly, but ended up making contact with Mendes. After Mendes went to the inside, and Wolfson, it appears, tried to dive in the corner right across his nose.
So Mendes thinks he has a run here in the Haviland number 45. Wolfson, yeah, I think you're onto something there, Justin. The 17 was running a different line, and I don't really think that he was thinking that the 45 was, first of all, going to be that low. The 45 was pretty low down on the straightaway, just kind of keeping his distance. And I think 17 just thought that he was going to be clear, though. We don't all have the luxury of having spotters in iRacing, guys. So that's just a rough one there, where two guys running different lines, and hey, those lines ran into each other. Sorry.
Yep. Best way to put it. Chris Wolfson electing not to get the damage repair, by the way. Mike Hallway did elect to get a fast repair done under this caution flag period. As we just passed halfway, here's your biggest movers and shakers so far throughout this race. +5 now for Harden and Bruce Pearson. -6 for Jason Mendes. -9 for Ruben Altis, along with Todd Liston so far in this race. And Shepherd and Lowe have been 1-2 the entire way so far.
And Bruce Pearson moving up 5 spots. It's been a quiet day so far. Unfortunately for him, he's going to be stuck on the outside on this restart, but going up 5 spots, been quiet. You know what? I'll take a quiet day going up through almost half the field any race I do on iRacing.
And Pearson first of the drivers who have gotten manual damage repairs done in this race so far tonight had been slipping back into those fellow groupings. But now that you have the restart coming up here in the next couple laps or so, how do you try and approach this now, knowing that there was a massive difference in the times that we talked about? But now this is where the tire saving could really come into play, especially with the potential of wheel spin.
And it all comes down to philosophy, right? You're going to wonder, can I keep up with these top three? If it's not the top three, then let's say it's just the group that you're running with. If you don't think you can, don't push it on this restart. We're going to see exactly who's been saving tires once we go back green on colder tires, trying to go through the gearbox, right? So this is all going to come down to what you think you can do with your car. Do you think that you can run down the guys in front of you? If you don't, let's just start conserving tires and run them down later. Don't blow out that right front trying to pass guys now that you don't think you have the pace to pass in the first place. So it all comes down to driving philosophy here on a restart where we just ran half the race under green.
Coming up to 45 to go when the green flag flies. This time by, it's Shepard and Lowe, Morton and Belkey, Moore and Hardin, Smith and Wolfson, your top 8 in the inversion spots. Bruce Pearson, Jason Mendes, your top 10. iRacing pace car is off. Green flag is out. We're back to racing.
Shepard had no problem getting back up to the top there on that restart. And Austin Belkey trying to use some momentum to battle for third.
Trying to take advantage of the situation right behind the top 2 that have already gone single file. Morton, though, able to carry more speed on the bottom, able to clear by Belkey coming off of turn 4. All while they still run side by side right behind him.
Hardin trying to hold off the 6 of Kurt Smith. And behind them is still a little bit of a hornet's nest as Jason Mendes is now stuck in the 9th position of this track. Trying to take a peek.
Bit of trouble at the back of the field as several drivers just stacked up. Ryan Seneca had hit the wall, hit by Lil Jewel. Ruben Altis had went in the grass. No caution flag. We stay green. That's caused this hornet's nest now, in part. Now with several drivers still trying to fight side by side at the edge of the top 10.
Yeah, if you're Mendes and Pearson, that's not too bad. If you're everyone behind them, I'm a little bit concerned because it looks like they want to go 3 wide at North Wilkesboro. That's not a good idea.
While there is the space there, it's something you normally don't expect to see and probably don't want to see here, especially with the differences in the elevation and the grip and the grooves around this racetrack. But Mike Holloway able to jump up to 10th position. He's now set his eyes on Mendes and Pearson.
Issues in the back. It looks like Wilson got tagged and into the wall. Lowell Jewell, Ruben Altis, Wilson all involved in this one.
Caution flag is out once more, 3rd time tonight. As the boss man, Lowell Jewell, with a very flat entry, you'll see coming into turn 1, makes contact with Wolfson in the 2nd straight caution flag. Wolfson immediately cuts hard to the right.
Lowell Jewell a little shaky off the corner, enters low, and just kind of comes up the track. Maybe a little bit of nut code there too. Seneca is just going, thank you. I've already had my watch your pants moments for this race. I didn't need to get tagged right there.
Let's take a look at Wolfson, as that time he didn't even try to diamond it on down. Just ended up getting hit in the quarter panel, and immediately when he tried to save it, hard into the fence, blown motor. That will likely be the faster pair. Ruben Altis also elected to come down. This caution flag was also collected in the back end of the incident.
It has been a rough day for Ruben Altis out of Virginia. Man, this has just been a day that you just want to get this race over with. If you get a top 10, that's great, but you really just want to finish this race without getting caught up in someone else's mess again.
Altis elected not to use the faster pair. Wolfson did. He had a blown motor. The faster pair, or rather the lucky dog, I should say, went to Todd Liston. Lowell Jewell is the only driver 1 lap down as a result of this incident. So we reset the field, and we've seen how quickly J.R. Shepard and James Lowe pulled away again. Both of them have been dialed in straight from the start.
Absolutely, and you can't ask for much more from if you have a crew chief or just yourself. Obviously, a fixed setup. It comes a lot down to driving style. These 3 are the class of the field, no doubt, but we'll see if Donnie Moore, currently lined up in 5th, has anything just to keep up with these guys. Donnie has a little bit of right front damage, but we know that he likes tracks like this, tracks like last week at Oxford, was trying to pull off the sweep last week in all 3 series. So with Donnie up into the top 5 of 3 spots from the start, we'll see if he can make a little bit of magic happen in that inside lane.
I'm curious of that as well, especially with the different number font that's on his 26 machine for tonight's race. Is dealing with a bit of damage, but Donnie Moore having one of his better seasons in the past couple of years so far. 9th in the point standings entering tonight. Hasn't had the luck early on in some of these races, but he's definitely had some speed to be top 8.
Absolutely, and it's guys like him and James Lowe, who the past couple of seasons, we've seen them be very successful, be very fast through a whole season, and then just the entire next season, it's nothing but bad luck. Tag the wall here, someone else tagged your rear bumper here, and just small things, those little aggravating things that make the season full of bad luck. We've seen it happen to both of them, but we do know that guys like that, they have speed out here in the Grand National Series.
See how this restart plays out. 35 to go. Shepard and Lowe in the front row still. Morton and Bonke, followed by Moore and Hardin. Your top 6. Kurt Smith is up to 7. Jason Mendes is up to 8. Pace car is off. Green flag is out. Back underway. And a great launch this time for Shepard. A poor one for Lowe. He's under attack and quickly by Justin Morton.
Trying to keep a nose to the inside the 99. Off the corner, though, enough momentum for Lowe to maintain P2. Donnie Moore thought about looking to the inside of Belk. He couldn't find that nose. And now Jeffrey Hardin getting shuffled out to the outside as Kurt Smith moves by him for 6.
Hardin went all the way up towards the marbles, in fact, trying to utilize the second group. The top 3 already single file. He was able to quickly get back to 4 for Donnie Moore, but for Hardin, trouble's now starting to set right behind these top 3.
And sometimes, again, this comes down to knowing how to maintain your tires on a cold run. For instance, I'm a very conservative driver. I don't push it on cold tires, and even if you have that right front down a little bit, it's hard to get going every single restart. And here, just trying to fight back against Jason Mendes. We have another caution. Once again, Chris Wolfson, he just wants to get out of North Wilkesboro at this point.
Third caution flag involved in for Wolfson. And really, this started all the way in turn 2 for him. Brings us back under yellow as he ended up getting loose, hitting the wall, getting unstuck from the wall, and then bouncing off of Todd Liston's door.
That's a little loose. Kind of got it back together. That wall was too close, though. Oh, yeah. I've done that before many times in practice. You think you get off the wall, and then you have that little kick down in the middle of the back straightaway. You're not off the wall, and he might have known that. I know that when I do it too now. If you're stuck on the wall and you come to that opening, you're in for a rough awakening.
He's also out of the race car as a result of that incident. He had already used his fast repair on the last caution flag for a blown motor. By the way, little Jewel is in the lucky dog position. Will bring us to 15 cars on the lead lap. So we're under caution coming to 30 laps to go. Overall, though, it's been an interesting race, have to say, for Jason Mendes. We've seen him involved with some trouble. He's been involved in a couple incidents, but he's right now holding on to the final inversion spot. It's a -5 for him, but there's a chance he can gain some more positions to try and get valuable points for the championship to try and keep up with James Lowe.
And Mendes second in the points. If he can start on pole next week, we have seen him in the past this season alone, I think, maybe towards the end of last season, him have the speed to keep up with the guys up front so long as he doesn't burn off that right front tire. Watch out for that battle for 8th. We know some of the guys back there like Kurt Smith, Mendes, Holloway, they all have the ability to start up front the next week and have a good amount of pace. And once everyone is on old tires, passing cars is a different story.
What do you think needs to be done to try and make the pass here tonight at this rate? Because it has been a race where we've seen some more difficulty tonight getting some of the moves done unless drivers make mistakes.
Well, we've seen just on restarts, you have to find a way to that inside lane, especially on old tires. That outside lane just really hasn't been working for anyone. And on top of that, you have to out-tire these guys. You have to out-save these guys on your tires because you have to really attack the entry to this corner to get that momentum. It's very difficult to pass on corner exit here, so you have to find a way to get that little extra spurt going into the corner, find your way to the inside of that quarter panel, and force the guy to be stuck on the outside of you, and then, of course, out-momentum him it's just so difficult if you're not doing it 100% technically sound to make that pass. So long as you have maybe a 10th faster lap because of that tire, that's going to help a lot, especially in the closing stages of this race.
27 to go when the green flag flies once more from Bonnie the flagman. At Shepard, Lowe, Morton, Bunke, Moore, Smith, Hardin, Mendes are your top 8. Outside the inversion spots, keep an eye on Mike Hallway and Ryan Seneca, who are 9th and 10th positions. Hallway had been closing in prior to some of these caution flags. Green flag is out. Much later start this time from Shepard. Lowe not able to keep up this though on the outside line. Morton able to keep it to the inside. Lowe clears on by. Belke trying to get side by side for third again.
How about this? Donnie Moore trying to pinch the 6 of Kurt Smith up, but Smith has momentum on the outside as well. Mendes trying to drive that train as well. They push up a little bit too far, though, almost into the wall. Donnie Moore able to claim that 5th position. Belke still running strong, though, here on the outside.
Belke not able to keep it side by side, though. Backs up and fills the hole. Donnie Moore still side by side right on behind. You see the view from Austin Belke, meanwhile. Just trying.
Look at
very
that focus,
much,
Justin.
very much focused in. As he misses a bit of the bottom, Donnie Moore's able to keep up this time. Side by side now, Hardin and Kurt Smith behind him.
Boy, you got to be careful now. I'm seeing a lot of guys squirrely on corner exit, specifically out of turn number 2 with that elevation change going uphill. You got to be careful on corner exit out of 2 here. I'm just seeing a lot of guys getting sideways. If you're stuck side by side like here with Smith and Hardin, it's going to be very easy to collect someone in a mess.
By the way, Lowell Jewell has pulled off the racetrack. That brings us to 14 cars currently running for the final 23 laps of this one. Every single lap has been led by J.R. Shepard so far. Still seeing Donnie Moore gaining a bit of ground right now on Jeffrey Hart and the rest of the pack by about a 10th a lap is the difference between these drivers and the rest of the field. The drivers up at the very front are running 18.9s for comparison's sake, compared to these drivers as 19.1s.
On board with Donnie Moore, you see the still pretty smooth inputs into the steering wheel. One thing that I'm noticing here is he's not having to jerk the car back to the right, and I think that just means a really good balance for Donnie getting back on the gas, because if you do get on the gas too soon, that's when the car gets squirrely. You have to correct the car back to the right. Right now, that number 26 car just looks really smooth, settled in here in what he hopes to be the last green flag run of this race, coming to 20 to go.
20 to go this time by as drivers look for those valuable points. Shepard looking for a second consecutive victory on the trot. Keep in mind, Shepard missed the first race of this season too, which adds that pressure for the championship. It's similar to a couple seasons ago. Shepard scored 40 points with a victory, needs to gain another 59 entering tonight, as we still fall on board with that battle for 4th position.
And we saw just 2 seasons ago where J.R. Shepard missed 1 race, no drop weeks here in the Bootleg Racing League, over 11 weeks, and he was still able to run his way through the points, but even after winning 3/4 of the season, didn't have enough points to make up all that room. James Lowe, riding in 2nd right now, is the guy who's the current points leader. Shepard's not full-time, Morton's not full-time, Kenny Kibbe will only be running select races this season, so this is the year where James Lowe has an opportunity to come out here and win himself a championship. But if he wants to win that championship, he knows that he cannot end too far away from the rear bumper of that 98, because he can still win this thing if he goes out and wins 7-8 races like he typically does every season.
Absolutely. By the way, Lowe is getting really loose here on these corner exits, I've noticed as well. So he's doing a solid job keeping this car going without looping it around. He's starting to lose time now as those back tires start to give way.
Yeah, he's really pushing. I don't know if he thinks that he can out-tire the 98, so he's just trying to outrun him, and now it's too late. You just have to deal with the car that you have. I'm wondering what J.R. Shepard looks like in the cockpit right now, because as loose as Lowe, and I think even Morton's getting a little bit swirly, that 98 still looks really smooth right now on entry, on exit, really smooth inputs. He's just looking good right now, Justin. He looks settled in. He looks comfortable.
Here he is one more time, as you can see. Very comfortable, even has a smile on his face as he continues to lead. Coming to 13 laps to go. Very dialed in at the moment.
And he's repositioning himself in his office chair too. How about that, man? He looks very comfortable out there. And yeah, those wheel inputs are very, very smooth, very slow, not having to jerk it back to the right. He really has control over this car, and I think that he has the most tire left over out of anyone in the top 3.
Absolutely. With 12 laps to go, he continues to turn some of the fastest laps on the track. Justin Morton's closed back in within half a second, though. He started to really push and has turned the fastest lap for the past 2 laps out of the top 3.
Yeah, I mentioned a wheel input and having to turn the car back to the right. He might even be using the brake to turn the car because, I mean, he's driving this car in with the steering wheel almost straight. So he's kind of bringing in some of that dirt background here. Look at him. He's turning it to the right going in on entry. This is old school short track racing that Justin Morton's trying to catch these guys with. So he's going all out here the last 12 laps.
Bit deeper on the brakes, I've noticed as well, compared to James Lowe by about a couple feet or so. Can he get side by side? No. Stay single file. Speaking of side by side, 6th position continues to be side by side. Jason Mendes saying hello with the front nose.
And Mendes in the invert spot right now for the provisional pole next week, and now under attack from Mike Holloway. So this is a very important battle here with a nose out front. That 2 car right now is on the provisional pole for next week.
Going to be intriguing how this plays out amongst this fight as Mendes loops it around again and Mike Holloway again into the wall. Kurt Smith gets loose as well with contact with Hornan. They all save it. No caution flag. We stay green with under 10 to go.
Holloway, an innocent bystander there. Jason Mendes has taken it on to pit road. And that will let Ryan Seneker inherit that provisional pole for next week as well in the white and blue number 61. So a good turn of events here for Seneker.
It's been a crazy turn of events, if anything, for the battle for the invert, as what a shuffle. Meanwhile, Morton continued to apply the pressure for 2nd position, diving to the inside. James Lowe able to defend for now. Lowe 4-wheel drifting it as they dodge their way past Bruce Pearson as Pearson goes to the pit lane.
And you can even see looking out of the rear windshield how shaky that rear end was on corner exit. And this is all because he's having to not only respond to Justin Morton's just aggressiveness right now behind him, but he is really losing touch with J.R. Shepard. It is nearly a 3/4 second lead here for the 98.
5 laps to go, approaching the point of no return for this race as Shepard continues to lead. He's led them all so far. James Lowe trying to hold on to 2nd. He's been in that spot all night. Morton trying a different line again, trying to carry more momentum into the corner. They continue to lose it on half a tenth to a tenth a lap to Shepard in this fight for 2nd.
And remember, this is a fixed setup series. Everyone is running the same gear in these cars, equipment, I guess I should say. But you see the difference between the 99 and the 9 just because of how they have utilized their cars through 95 laps and their driving style. That 9 has a lot of speed in the center of the corner. It's not able to keep up with Lowe, though, on exits.
Lowe, though, drifts up the track. Morton now with the run. Will Morton try and take it? Yes, he takes a peek to the inside. Not able to get to the quarter panel quite yet, though, as James Lowe able to squeeze with 2 laps to go.
Morton at this point isn't even turning the car to the left. He just kind of pokes it. I mean, it really looks like he's dirt tracking it like the Cup cars at Bristol, the way that he's really holding this wheel. Taking one last look here into 3.
Coming to the white flag this time by final lap from North Wilkesboro. J.R. Shepard leads by more than a second. Shepard has led from the opening drop of the green flag, has been calm and cool and collected in that driver's seat. And now he'll add another victory to his totals for the 2nd week in a row. It's J.R. Shepard who will take the checkered flag this time in North Wilkesboro, BRL's Grand National Series. 2nd spot, James Lowe holds on. Justin Morton in 3rd. Austin Belkey finishes in 4th, while Donnie Moore holds on to a top 5.
Woo, they're coming tight across that line. Altiso had a very rough day and will end it in the wall as well.
That was the battle of just outside the inversion spawn, as we'll take you to post-race coverage right after this. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel right from the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway on iRacing. Welcome back to the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway on iRacing for post-race coverage for the BRL's Grand National Series. After what was a dominating one for J.R. Shepard, where he led every single lap to go back-to-back on the season after missing the opening race of the campaign. He took the checker flag by 1.1 seconds. That advantage grew by about 0.6 in the final 15 laps alone. Justin Morton came behind to James Lowe in second and third respectively, with Austin Belke in fourth, Donnie Moore in fifth position. Jeffrey Harding finished in sixth position after starting in 11th. Kurt Smith in seventh. Ryan Seneca rounded out the inversion spots with an 8th-place run from 15th position starting spot. Ruben Altis finished in ninth. Joe Segala rounded out your top 10, Devin.
God, listen, the last car to finish on the lead lap, and then everyone else multiple laps down with Bruce Pearson, Jason Mendes, Mike Holloway, Lowell Jewell, and Chris Wilson rounding out the 16-car field here at North Wilkesboro.
Let's look top to bottom at your running order for tonight's racing action. And what was a dominating one, Devin Henry is standing by with James Lowe after tonight's action.
Well, James, that one was a tight one at the very least here and there. Take me through that last couple of laps, duking it out with Justin Morton. Try to keep him behind you best you could.
Yeah, he came on strong there at the end. There was just too many cautions there at the end, and the last one, I lost my rhythm there on that last restart, and it was unfortunate because I think we were a little bit faster, especially through 1 and 2. Might have had something for JR, but I guess we'll never know.
And plenty of guys getting sideways. 100 laps in North Wilkesboro really takes a toll on the machine. What did it take to really keep that smoothness throughout the race and maintain your car through 100 laps? Because there weren't many in the field who were capable of doing that, and you were one of them who was able to keep it for the most part in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I went about 3/4 throttle for about the first 3/4 of the race there, so I wasn't really pressing too hard. And then, just the cautions really threw things off, and then the last one, that was more on me. I just lost the rhythm there.
Well, you are still the points leader, and now moving ahead to Five Flag Speedway, what do you have to look at for the upcoming week as we move into some other very difficult tracks like South Boston, Southern National like that? What's the goals at Five Flags just to keep this points lead and try to keep on buffing it out?
Same thing. Just go out there and run good. And I mean, if we finish second again, that ain't the end of the world because we're a long way ahead of the first place, ahead of JR there. So, we just got to keep running good, and hopefully we'll get up there and get us a win.
James Lowe keeping it consistent. He finishes second here at North Wilkesboro. James, congrats on the second place finish. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it.
I'll throw it back to Justin Prince. He's caught up with J.R. Shepard.
Yes, indeed. J.R. Shepard, another victory for you tonight, back-to-back on the season. First of all, how are you feeling? You led every single lap tonight.
Yeah, a little bit weird tonight. Yeah, the field didn't get inverted like it was supposed to, so I hate when that happens because it kind of cheats the guys out of their spots starting up front. And they earn those, even though they finished in the back last week. They earned getting to start up front. So I hated to see that, but once I knew that we were starting on the pole, it was just about taking care of the tires. I never pushed the car a single time the whole race, so there was a lot of pace left in it for sure.
It was talked about a little bit with the caution flags. James Lowe thought he might have had something for you. In fact, he said as well. He was in that battle, of course, though, with Justin Morton in those closing stages. Have you on camera here as well. Talk about your setup here as well for tonight's race, where you have a nice tight steering wheel set up, a nice office, and I can't tell what's just to the right on our view, if that's supposed to be where a pet sits or anything like that.
Yeah, that's like an air mattress that's sitting there, and I'm trying to hide the bed behind it that's all messy at the moment. So we'll work on that for some better viewing.
Okay, I thought that was actually a cat stand or something. Just to the very right, there was of the angle. But next race goes to Five Flags. Your thoughts going into that race?
Yeah, that's a fun track. It's definitely not been my best for sure. I've had help from guys like Kenny Kibbe, who who I think is the best in the entire series there. And I know he's not racing right now with us, but I've learned a lot from him, and we've traded secrets back and forth on how do we drive the car. So maybe I can use some of those to have a decent run.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, just again, thanks to Lojul and the Bootleg Racing League and what he does to allow us to race on Friday and Saturday nights. And thanks to my team, Different Path Motorsports, and of course to everything that you guys do at GSRC. You guys do a great job and really makes us look good each and every week. So we really appreciate it.
You've done it again. Another victory tonight, JR. Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
JR Shepard, once again in victory lane here in the Bootleg Racing League. A stellar victory for him. Now standing by is your third place finisher tonight, Justin Morton. And Justin, it seemed you picked up the pace in the closing stages. What happened in those closing stages where you were drifting your way through the corners trying to get second?
Yeah, I was pushing pretty hard there at the end. I started to really go for it on that final restart. I just cooked my tires a little bit too much. That crest over exiting 4, it'll spin your tires, and once you do that, it's really hard to get them cooled off again.
What makes this track so difficult, in your opinion, with especially this older surface being at 1987 in Sim, for example? What makes this race so difficult?
I think the most difficult thing to me is how different both the turns are. 1, you kind of want to arc it down. 1 and 2, you want to arc it down kind of a little bit. And then 3 and 4, you want to hold it as tight as possible on that curving, which I was kind of messing up. Matthew Thunhorse, my teammate in Majors, he was helping me, crew chiefing basically for me and telling me what I was doing wrong. It was a big help, though.
Indeed. Now Five Flags is up next. How do you plan to approach that race compared to other ones that have been there in the past? What do you plan to try and do differently there at Five Flags?
I don't know. Probably just try to be more patient. I noticed that's one of the tracks I really kill my tires really bad at. So I'll probably have Matthew with me again, helping me. So yeah, it's been a big help.
I want to ask real quickly actually about that. How did that come about with your Majors teammate to help you with the BRL for tonight?
Oh yeah, he's starting to join us. He's running the street stocks right now, so he kind of just stuck around after his race, and kind of just hung out with me and kind of just tried to help me with stuff because he's a really great oval driver, and I definitely have some things to improve on.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Oh yeah, thank Matt first off. Thanks my team, Total Downforce Racing, Pixel Dust for the amazing paint, Lowell for this great league, and thank you guys for doing the broadcast.
Congratulations on the run tonight.
Thank you.
Justin Morton coming home in third tonight, started in 4th position, was able to hold on to that spot for a majority of the run. Now, Devin, your final thoughts on this one after what was a dominating victory for JR Shepard.
Well, I am disappointed we didn't get to see a pet in our cameras today. Maybe we'll be able to get that better for you guys next week. But nonetheless, 2 straight weeks of extremely technical tracks. I mean, it's not like these short tracks are easy in the first place, but at this point, Five Flags is still a difficult track, but I think it's going to be welcomed by this group after the past 2 weeks of just really tough racing at Oxford and North Wilkesboro. So some really tight racing, some very difficult maneuvering the past couple of weeks. Five Flags doesn't make it much easier, but at least it might be a little bit more comfort room for these drivers next Saturday night.
It's going to be an interesting one indeed, but we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from North Wilkesboro. I'd also like to thank the Bootleg Racing League for organizing this exciting series and what was, for JR Shepard, a 3rd straight victory in the Moonshine Challenge as well. We'd also like to thank the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on screen. Additional thanks go to Jude Warner, provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more for great work. Thanks to the team today as well, and Devin and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.stormpy.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a moment on the Global SimRacing Channel. As talked about, Our drivers are getting ready for Five Flags up next. That'll be on April 24th. Coverage begins at approximately 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Green flag scheduled for approximately 9 p.m. Be sure to tune in here on GSRC. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until on April 17th, later on tonight, more racing for the Outsider Racing Series when they go to Super Speedway action. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.